ET Now Startup Central, India's first and only daily show dedicated to startups and entrepreneurship. I'm Chandra Shrikant coming to you live from India's startup capital, Bangalore. And as always, we have a power-packed show lined up for you over the next 20 minutes. But first up, the headlines. It's the most awaited Internet Trends report of the year. We are, of course, talking about KPCB Mary Meeker's Internet Trends report. And guess what? India finds prominent mention there because it's the only country which is seeing exponential growth as far as Internet users are concerned. It's a mega fundraise coming in for Uber, which raises $3.5 billion from Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund. Valuation remains at $62.5 billion, making it the most valuable startup globally. But what does Uber's fundraise mean for India's Ola? Does Uber's expanded war chest and ammunition give Ola reasons to worry? And on our special segment, Budding Star, we feature BabyChakra, an online discovery platform that helps young parents discover products and services for their kids. We have Naiyya Sagi, co-founder and CEO of the startup, joining us on the show today. Let's take it to the top story then, and we do have a live guest joining us on the show today, Rehan Yar Khan, Managing Director of Orios Venture Partners, a venture capitalist who struck some very successful deals. Rehan, welcome to the show, and he of course will be giving us perspective on both our top stories today, the Mary Meeker report as well as the mega Uber fundraise, and what implications it has for Ola in India. But before we come to Rehan, let's actually take you through the key trends as far as the Mary Meeker report is concerned. Remember, this is one of the most awaited reports annually to really gauge internet usage worldwide, trends when it comes to digital, and what the road is as far as internet and digital is concerned. This time around, India perhaps stood out as a bright spot in that 213 slide presentation that KPCB's Mary Meeker gave, because if you look at the data here, the global internet growth is actually stagnating in stark contrast to what is happening in India, because the number of internet users in India is growing, and it grew at an exponential 40% last year. Contrast that to the 7% global average, which basically means that India is seeing 4 times as much as growth that global usage is seeing, perhaps why a lot of people are betting big on online ventures. There were also interesting aspects. One, of course, is the fact that India has overtaken the US to become the second largest base as far as internet users is concerned, second only to China. Interestingly, global smartphone shipments have come down. That's one of the highlights of the report. There are also some interesting aspects with respect to where online advertising is heading, and no surprises there, because Google and Facebook contribute to about 76% of the global ad growth. So I guess they're really dominating the space there. But on the contrary, the number of ad blocks have increased substantially. That's going to pose some challenge for advertisers. As far as messaging platforms are concerned, WhatsApp, FB Messenger, and WeChat seem to be the leaders in messaging. Average apps used globally has risen to 33. Voice is going to play a prominent role as far as search is concerned going forward. So I guess the traditional means of searching through text is going to give way to more and more voice and images going forward. Finally, consumer data privacy, that's something that's rising rapidly, the concerns around that. But I guess that's something that users are increasingly sacrificing because of increasing analytics, increasing time spent on platforms. And the way this is all getting tracked very closely to really help companies help advertisers make better decisions. So those were really the highlights of the Mary Meeker report. Rehan, thank you so much again for coming to us live from Mumbai. What's your first takeaway from those slides of Mary Meeker this year, especially the part around internet growth in India?
Well, I think we all knew that internet growth in India is extremely robust. Several of our local reports have put out similar data. The Internet and Mobile Association has been talking about this. Google has been talking about this. What was surprising in the report to me, so while India didn't come as a surprise, what was surprising to me was that the West has actually maxed out. So I think that's very interesting. And all the growth now seems to be in India and China, though China, albeit, is going to grow at a slower nick than India. But I think that's very interesting, and I think that's going to be very interesting from a focus perspective of investors and investing dollars.
I'm sure it's something that we see would have been happy to see, right? I mean, because a lot of the commentary around investments in the last 2 years is, around smartphone penetration and increasing internet usage, and a lot of data around, how many users are going to come online, yes, how many users are going to tap into e-commerce. So does it sort of validate investment strategy in that sense?
Well, certainly validates it, and I think she makes another point that India is now at an inflection point. So I think it's going to become even more interesting going forward. And this is again something I think we all knew that this is going to happen in India, and it's going to be very large and more impactful than in India than in other parts of the world, right? So don't forget, India is a massively underdeveloped country. America, Europe is a highly developed country. You have every kind of brand, every kind of retail, every kind of communication option. So if you recall, when cell phones came to us in India, it was just so revolutionary for us because we had a major national communication issue. There wasn't that kind of a communication issue in Europe or in America, right? So the impact of these kind of things in an underdeveloped country like India is just 10x of what it is in these countries, both from a consumer point of view and from a business point of view. So potentially you can build even larger companies than you can build in the United States online in India, right? And we've seen that happen in China. If you look at the size of JD and Alibaba and Tencent and some of these retailers, they've just become huge. Why is that? Because you didn't have a lot of offline retailers, with a lot of stores. So people are, now that they got their hands on smartphones, they're going online and shopping and satiating all their desires. And on the other side, you've got an economy, right? I think we had some good news recently of the 7.9% growth. So that's putting more disposable income in people's hands. Smartphone penetration is going up. You're large and underdeveloped. So what's going to happen? You're going to get, the online action is going to become extremely, extremely big and going to start overtaking anything that we've seen offline.
Right. Rehan, I'll come to you now for the second part of our headlines, which is, of course, the mega fundraise that we saw from Uber and Ola. Just to give our viewers a recap, Uber has raised $3.5 billion from Saudi Arabia's Sovereign Wealth Fund in their Series G round of funding, making it one of the largest fundraisers in recent times. And, this comes barely weeks after Apple invested $1 billion in their largest rival in China, Didi. And Travis Kalanick, talking about this investment, said that, it comes as a huge vote of confidence for them. Now, particularly, this may have a lot of, this may give Ola a lot of reasons to worry because Uber has said that they intend to deploy a significant chunk of capital from this fundraise in markets like India, which has seen significant growth in the last few years. I mean, we were just coming at a point when people, were talking about better unit economics, better efficiency, But with Uber really coming in with more ammunition, with an expanded war chest, it really remains to be seen if this is again going to become a race to the bottom with discounting happening across categories. So I guess that's going to be an interesting question going forward, and if it will mount pressure on Ola as well to go in for a fresh round of fundraise. But to give us more perspective again, Rehan, who better than you? You're one of the earliest investors in Ola investment that reaped rich dividends for you. What do you really make of Uber's fundraise?
Listen, the market is extremely large in India, right? And that's the other thing that Mary Meeker's report alludes to, where she talks about rapid urbanization in India leading to, along with a chronic issue in public transportation and transportation in general. So if you put the two together, if you put together Mary Meeker's data and you put together Uber's fundraise, but naturally Uber is going to put in money into India to tap this large and growing market, right? And it's going to do the same in China. Both these markets are very large and they're going to grow a lot. Now, will this eat into their competitors? Maybe, maybe not. Most probably not, because we're looking at a very early market with a lot of headroom to grow. Right? So I think investments are going to be put more into growth than into stamping out competition. So I don't think the price wars that you're alluding to, the lack of profitability that may happen, I think those are going to be signs of a market which has got maxed out. In a market where we are only seeing, the cab market is estimated at 50 million to 75 million rides a day. We're probably only seeing 2% or 3% of this market having been captured so far. So I don't think the money is going to go into fighting the competition as into building out the market.
Right. And how is Ola really going to continue to build out the market without, ammunition of that kind? Will they be forced to go in, for another round of fundraising? And how difficult or easy is that going to be in the current environment?
Well, as you can see from Uber's fundraise, it doesn't look like it's very difficult. They've gone in, got themselves a nice chunk of change. Listen, it's a large market. Investors, Ola is the largest player in the market. Investors will want to put money into Ola because Ola has a great chance of building its balance sheet and building its business. So you want to be part of that story, right? We're looking at, if you look at the West, if according to Mary Meeker's report, the West seems to have maxed out, right? And you're potentially looking at, peak prices in the realty market overseas, thanks to 10 years of QE now. So where do you put your money as an investor? Right? Ground transportation is a great space to put your investor. Ola is a great company to put your money into because it's a leader in the space. Uber is still a second in India. So you put your money in one of these two players, right? And the same thing in China. You put your money in Didi Kodai or you put your money in Uber. These are the two sort of players out there which are going to capture the market. So I think Ola, Didi, Uber, all three players will continue attracting a lot of investment to capture these large markets.
So, fair to say it's going to be just Ola versus Uber going forward. I mean, a lot of other players are also there, but it's primarily going to be these two.
Looks like that. I don't think anyone else is of any kind of significant size to be able to command, any kind of large capital anymore.
Right. Rehan, thank you so much for joining us live with all the perspective on both Mary Meeker and Uber Ola. That's going to be an interesting battle going forward. But thank you for joining us on 18 Hour Startups.
Thank you, Chandra.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Moving on from those billion, thank you. Moving on from those billion-dollar babies with, mega valuations, we move on to our special segment, Budding Star, where we are looking at BabyChakra, an online discovery platform that connects parents to products and services for their kids. We have Naiyya Sagi, the co-founder and CEO of BabyChakra, joining us on the show today. Naiyya, thank you so much for joining us on ET Now Startup Central. Now, while the BabyChakra site has a host of services, tell us what problem you're trying to solve through your venture.
The problem we're trying to really solve for is the problem of information asymmetry. I was sharing with you earlier, so about 60% of India now lives in nuclear families, which means about 83% of the decisions around pregnancy and childcare are taken by young, very uninformed young mothers, right? The whole support, the traditional network of mothers and bhabis and sister-in-laws, etc., does not exist anymore. So these women are now turning online. And when they go online, they find very inferior quality resources to really make decisions on, be it on a gynecologist, which one to go to, a maternity hospital, which one to go to, or even a play school or a daycare, which ones to send their children to, right? And these are really, really critical childcare decisions. So BabyChakra exists with exactly that purpose in mind. As a young mother, you can come on to the most credible source of resources online in India today that's made for you, personal to you as an Indian mom, and can help you make better choices for you and your family, right from pregnancy to early childcare.
Help us understand, how big this market is and how fast can you potentially grow?
So the market is massive. It's so I'll tell you a couple of things that are very exciting about the market. Number one, it's a $20 billion market when I sort of factor in products and services together, right? One of the fastest growing segments in that market are actually the pregnancy and the young childcare segment. That's growing by about 30% year on year. The second thing about the market that's incredibly exciting is it's very fragmented, and 95% of it is actually offline. So if you look at the transactions, both on services and products, right, in the childcare space, maternity space, they actually happen offline. They happen in a kirana store, they happen at your local maternity hospital, your local doctor, at your local play school, right? No one provider or platform is bringing them online, and that's the segment we are really disrupting. We are bringing this fragmented market online for the first time, removing the information asymmetry, the questions on quality and the questions on risk that a young mother would have before availing of these services and products, and we're really bringing it to her in one app at her fingertips.
Right. Finally, what kind of traction are you seeing in terms of monthly active users? I mean, is that the metric you track, or is there some other metric that you track to really know, how you're scaling? Take us through what kind of traction you're seeing.
So we basically track by the very couple of very basic metrics, I think, which is what most new ventures use and what most ventures use in the space is growth and there's health, right? So in terms of growth, we launched our our open beta, if you will, middle of last year, 2015. Today we're the largest platform for young mothers, to come on one portal. And we have both a mobile web as well as an app platform, an Android app platform. So we're the largest. We have more than 500,000 young mothers use us on a monthly basis and very, very engaged. So when coming to the growth, coming to the health metric there, right? Our session times are probably one of the highest in the industry, not just in the parenting space, in the industry overall. In terms of our retention rates, again, we have some of the highest retention rates in the industry. So what we absolutely find super exciting, and that's why we feel we're really poised to grow very rapidly, is there are no leaky funnels in our product.
Thanks for that, and here's wishing you the very best. But with that, we come to the final segment of the day, Number Crunch. And the number we are crunching for you today is 5 lakh. That's the number of users on Reliance Jio during its trial run. The Reliance Jio, its launch, has been watched with a lot of caution, anticipation by its rivals, by the market at large, and it's really expected to change the 4G landscape in terms of bringing more users online. And I guess with 500,000 users on its trial run alone, I guess Mary Meeker's report next year around is certainly going to be interesting, because as she said, India's internet growth is at an inflection point, which means it's really going to be interesting times ahead. But with that, we come to the end of this news-packed edition of ET Now Startup Central. Thanks so much for watching and keep it with ET Now.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/etnow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at etnowlive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/etnow.